Chapter 66. This venerable one sees the heavenly rift for the first time. By the second day, nothing unusual had happened. Chu Chun sent guards to tally the number of straw men in the city to make sure that it matched the number of people, while the people busied themselves packing their few possessions. Just one more night and they would leave first thing in the morning to take refuge at Putuo in accordance with Chu Chun's plan. Moran sat by the gate of the governor's residence, watching the people come and go. He sighed. Chu Chun's plan is watertight. Unless someone leaked the info, the average ghost wouldn't have the brains to figure out that only decoy puppets will be left in the city. Someone must have ratted them out. Shidi, what do you think? No response. Shidi? Moran turned around. Without him noticing, his little Shidi had wandered off to watch a squadron of riders get ready, and in his place was Chu Gong's son, sitting with his cheeks in hand. Dakege! Moran almost jumped at his sudden appearance. What is it? The little fellow pointed at an old paulownia tree nearby, in which a kite dangled from a high branch. Mama gave it to me. It got stuck. Can't reach. He articulated with some difficulty. Dakege, help me? No prob. Moran leapt nimbly to the top of the tree using Qinggong, retrieved the butterfly-shaped kite, and landed steadily back on the ground, smiling as he returned. Here you go. Don't lose it again, okay? The little boy nodded. Moran watched him wandering around alone for a bit. He found himself thinking that Chu Chun probably didn't have the time to look after his son. Where's your mom? It's a bit busy around here, so I'll take you to her. Mama? Mama is at the mountains in the back. What's she doing in the mountains? Moran asked, mystified. Sleeping. The kid answered in a soft voice, looking at him guilelessly. Mama's always sleeping there. Papa takes me to see her when the flowers bloom in the spring. Ah. Moran uttered quietly, at a loss for words. The boy didn't mind. He was still too young to understand what death meant. He played happily with the kite in his hands for a bit, then looked up at Moran and shuffled over. Gege, thank you, he said in a whisper. I have something to give you. He dug around in his pocket as he spoke, and finally produced a small half-piece of pastry wrapped in a reed leaf. No one in the city had enough to eat these days, so it was a mystery as to how the little guy had managed to save a piece of pastry. He broke it in half and handed the smaller piece to Moran. Dakege, for you. Shh, don't tell anyone. I don't have any more. Moran was about to accept it when the boy suddenly changed his mind and took the smaller piece back, offering him the bigger half instead. It's really yummy. There's sweet bean paste inside. This small act made Moran's heart all warm and fuzzy. He was used to poor treatment and didn't quite know how to respond to charity. He reached out and took the sweet with a mumbled thanks. The boy seemed quite pleased and grinned brightly, the curve of his dark eyelashes filled with warmth and kindness. Moran couldn't bear to eat the flour cake, so he wrapped it up using a leaf from the paulownia tree and tucked it in his robes. He intended to talk further with the kid, but in the end, the boy was a little kid with a little kid's attention span. He had already bounced away into the distance. Chu Wanning came back around that point only to see Moran standing there, staring off into space. He raised an eyebrow. What's up? Moran watched the boy disappear and sighed. I was just thinking, all these people, how come they all had to die? Night descended. Dark clouds covered the skies, while occasional bolts of lightning ripped through the heavens. As the night grew deeper, a terrible gale howled amidst a torrential downpour. Rain and its attendant yin energy enhanced the powers of ghosts and other fiends. Chu Chun gathered the survivors of Lin An near his residence and bid them stay inside the Changjing barrier at all times. Due to the rain, many of the areas that could usually be used as places of respite no longer served as such. Moran kept an eye on Xiaoman, but when more and more people crowded into the governor's residence to take shelter from the rain, Xiaoman ducked out of view. "Damn," Moran muttered. "I'll go after him," Chu Wanning said immediately. He was small, after all, and he swiftly dove into the crowd and disappeared. He returned after a while with an irate expression. "He got away." "Outside the barrier?" "Mm-hmm." Moran fell silent, gazing at the downpour outside and the people bustling to and fro. This was all only an illusion of events that had come to pass 200 years ago, but he suddenly felt so wretched. The people around them had such hope on their faces. They believed that as soon as dawn broke, Chu Chun would take them to Puto, away from this ghost-infested hell. In the pouring rain, guards dressed in white and red put their all into making the final preparations so that they would be ready to move when the sun rose. None of them knew how little time they had left. The night grew later still, and the noise died down as people dozed off, leaning against one another. However, Chu Wanning and Moran were wide awake. Their task was to wait for the Ghost King to appear and to kill him. Since Xiaoman had already left the barrier, this night had to be the turning point. Moran turned to glance at Chu Wanning. "Why don't you get some rest? I'll wake you if anything happens." "I'm not sleepy," said Chu Wanning. Moran stroked his hair. "Then eat something? We haven't eaten since coming here." When Chu Wanning saw the pastry Moran produced, the words "not hungry" were replaced by a gulp. Moran handed it over. "Here you go." Chu Wanning accepted the sweet and broke it in half, giving the larger half back to Moran and keeping the smaller portion for himself. Moran stared blankly at him, face unreadable. Chu Wanning took a bite and uttered a questioning before asking, "Is this from Peach Blossom Springs? The flavor is a bit different from the ones before." "How so?" "It tastes of osmanthus flowers." Moran forced a smile. "Oh, Chu Chun's son gave it to me. It's probably traditional for Lin An." "It is indeed." Chu Wanning was opening his mouth to take another bite when he froze, as if he'd suddenly realized something. All the color drained from his face. "That's not right." Chu Wanning shot to his feet, eyes wide and expression ghastly. Moran hadn't the slightest idea what the problem was. "What's not right?" Chu Wanning didn't answer. Instead, he walked into the courtyard and looked around in the pouring rain before picking up a sharp rock and firmly cutting into his own arm. Blood gushed out. Moran grabbed him hurriedly. "Are you crazy?" Chu Wanning stared at the blood trickling down his arm for a moment before his head snapped up, eyes intense. "Have you still not caught on?" he said harshly. "Someone means us harm." Blood ran down his arm non-stop, the crimson diluted by the rain. Chu Wanning's face was pale in the deluge, his dark brows knitted tightly together and thoroughly drenched by the ceaseless downpour. Thunder rumbled and lightning split the skies, and for an instant the harsh light turned night into day. The sudden clap of thunder jolted Moran into understanding. He subconsciously took a step back. He knew what wasn't right. Nothing in an illusion was real, however realistic it might seem. It should have been impossible for a pastry to have any taste, or for a weapon to actually cause them injury. In short, it should have been impossible for anything within the illusion to affect them. "Someone manifested the illusion," Chu Wanning said quietly. Manifesting an illusion, also known as illusion reification, was no easy task. The ones most skilled in this technique were those of the Guyue sect, whose motto was "Medicine for people, divine physician for the heart." The latter half of the saying referred to the fact that some of them specialized in the art of manifesting illusions. Many people were unable to accept the passing of a loved one, but through illusion reification, the dead could once more accompany the living. However, manifesting illusions was extremely difficult, so generally speaking, only short individual scenes could be created, such as sharing a drink or taking a nap together. It would be only one thing at most. This illusion, on the other hand, was extensive and continuous with a large variety of events, and moreover, it had been constructed by the feathered tribe. Even Guyu's own sect leader might not be able to manifest at all. Moran immediately thought of someone else. Could it be that fake Gochin from Jinchen Lake? Before he could think further on it, a strange sound burst forth from the skies above. The dozing people jolted awake like startled birds, looking around with wide eyes before they finally stared up. For a moment it was deathly silent. Then screams erupted like an explosion of water droplets in boiling oil. The people tried to flee in every direction, only to discover there was nowhere to go, and screams came from all sides. There was a fracture in the sky, and an enormous, blood-red ghost eye stared unnervingly down from directly above. The eye was so close that it was practically pressed against the barrier. A harsh, garbled voice boomed forth. "Chu Chun, how very bold of you, a mere mortal daring to deceive this venerable one." "The Ghost King," Moran muttered. There were 9 kings of the Ghost Realm, and some were far stronger than others. The one before them now had yet to show himself, so there was no way to tell which one he was. That lone eyeball loomed in the sky, dripping with blood as it stared at the building below. "Such arrogance! Absurd! You wish to save them? Pathetic mortal! I might not have wiped out your city before, but since you wish to stand against me, I'll kill every single one of you. None shall be spared." With a shrill shriek, a blinding red light shot from the ghost eye, aimed directly at the barrier. Crimson clashed with gold, and for an instant, all the other colors of the world ceased to be. The force of the impact sent debris flying into the howling gale and relentless rain. The tree branches in the courtyard snapped one after another. The citizens inside the barrier grew hysterical, wailing as they huddled together. The Shangqing barrier withstood the first hit, but another flash of red followed immediately after and struck the same spot. The barrier held out, but a crack appeared. "How arrogant! Insufferable!" The red light struck again and again, the impacts thundering and sparks flying. When the barrier was on the verge of collapse, Chu Wanning's blood ran cold. Now that the illusion had been manifested, any attack that landed would be no different from one in the real world. If that attack were to hit them, both he and Moran might die. Golden light gathered at his fingertips. This would surely blow his cover, but the situation being what it was, he had no choice. He was about to summon Tianwen and get it over with, when a resplendent bolt of light flew across the sky like an arrow and headed directly for the epicenter of the cracks in the barrier. The crowd turned to see Chu Chun standing on a tall roof. He cradled a phoenix harp, and as his fingertips danced across its strings, they sent bolts of light sweeping forth to gather at the barrier. Each strum was as sharp and powerful as the rupturing of metal, and they instantly reinforced the Changqing barrier that had nearly failed. "Gongzi is here! Gongzi!" The people below exclaimed one after another, some even crying with joy. Chu Chun held his own against the eye of the Ghost King. The pair exchanged 100 moves in an instant, and the Ghost King was altogether unable to encroach past the barrier. The cold voice rang again across the sky, even more menacingly. "Chu Chun, with your skills, you could have easily escaped by yourself. Why do you insist on meddling in affairs unrelated to you and making an enemy of the ghost realm? Your Majesty wishes harm upon my citizens. How could anything be less unrelated to me? Ridiculous. We ghosts feed on the souls of the living. There is no difference between us eating souls and you eating meat. You will understand soon enough, once you're dead. Shizun didn't miss a beat, the notes of his harp never pausing. Then we'll just have to see if your Majesty can take this head from my shoulders. As he spoke, the chords beneath his fingers rose to a crescendo until a brilliant light pierced the heavens right into the bloody eye in the sky. The terrifying scream shook the very ground they stood on. Fetid blood sprayed from where the eye had been burned by Shizun's spell, and the crimson downpour mixed with his shrill shrieks. In his anger, the Ghost King unleashed a blade of light many times stronger than those before it, striking out through the sanguine rain. Shizun moved to block, but this attack was unlike the others, and the force of the impact forced him back several steps. The notes of his harp stuttered. "Gongzi! Crack! There's a crack! The barrier's going to break! Mama! Mama!" The crowd panicked. Those with families huddled together and sobbed, while those without cowered in corners and quivered. Shizun gritted his teeth, fire in his eyes, refusing to give up just like that. While he was locked in a stalemate with the Ghost King, lights flashed life on either side of him. He glanced to his periphery to see Moran and Chu Wanning standing with him, their scarlet and golden light flowing steadily into his own, once again sealing the barrier. A terrifying roar came from above. The ghost eye disappeared. The three of them descended to the ground, and the sky rained rotten blood for a while longer before finally returning to clear water. Shizun, face pale, bowed to Moran and Chu Wanning. "Many thanks for your help." "Don't mention it." Moran waved his hands. "Go get some rest. You look terrible." Shizun nodded. He had indeed burned through too much of his reserves, so Moran supported him through the corridor. The people who had been in disarray only a moment ago saw that Chu Gongzi had repaired the barrier and saved them, so they gathered in gratitude, offering him water and draping clothing over his shoulders. "Chu Gongzi," one said, "you're all drenched. Please go warm yourself by the fire." Shizun thanked them one by one, but he was too exhausted to move, and so could only turn down that person's invitation. Undaunted, the people carried over branches and made a bonfire beside him instead. Things gradually quieted down, save for the crackling of the flames. Suddenly, someone asked, "Gongzi, we took so many precautions, but somehow the Ghost King still saw through it all. What should we do?" Yeah. How did they know we were going to leave?" "Gongzi said these ghosts couldn't tell the difference between the puppets and the real people. So how did this happen? Could it be?" The man's voice faltered, and he snuck a glance at Shizun. He clearly wanted to say that perhaps Shizun had been wrong, that maybe somehow, somewhere, he'd messed up. The white-clad guards saw that glance, and one of them swept in to rebuke the man with furrowed brows. "What are you trying to say? It's obviously because someone couldn't keep that trap shut and leaked the plan to the Ghost King." "Who would tattle to the ghosts, though?" The person mumbled. "It's not like there's anything to be gained from that." Then, seeing all the infuriated glares directed his way, he stopped talking, disgruntled. A while passed in silence before someone else said, "Gongzi, that damn ghost definitely won't leave it at that. What should we do?" Shizun, exhausted, didn't open his eyes, but his voice remained gentle. "We just have to hold out until dawn, and then be on our way. They can do nothing in daylight." "We have so many people, the elderly, the young, and some injured too. Can we make it to Putuo Mountain in a single day?" "Don't worry about that." Shizun said softly. Get some rest. Just focus on the journey tomorrow and I'll take care of the rest. Chu Gongzi had always protected his citizens. When he said this, everyone listened and did as they were told. A little kid came over holding a piece of sesame candy and offered it to Chu Chun. Chu Chun opened his eyes slightly and patted his head with a smile. He was about to say something when a shouting guard ran over in a panic. Gongzi! Gongzi! Something terrible has happened! What is it? The little Gongzi! The little Gongzi! Shaman! Outside the city god temple! The guard was too shocked to finish a sentence. He stammered some more, then fell to his knees and sobbed miserably. Chu Chun shot to his feet, what little color that lingered on his face draining away as he rushed into the rain.